Hello everyone, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and today I'm going to be talking about the rapidly increasing rate of change on this planet, the generational crisis unfolding as a result of that, and what we can do as individuals about how to mitigate the negative consequences of that and maximize the positive aspects of that. So basically this is going to be another one of my Jedi videos talking about the life energy of the universe. Okay, this is one of my main themes, and I've decided that from this point forward it's going to become a very central theme of my videos because, to tell the truth, there's enough people out there already just babbling about politics and offering this or that analysis and commentary, and I'll continue to say things as I see them, but I think that what's really important right now is that we have a center. We find our grounding and we reattach ourselves to those things in our life, those aspects of our personal narrative that actually have real value. Okay, that's really what this transition is all about, is finding out, sorting the wheat from the chaff, if you will, finding out what has value, what has merit, what is worth something to us as human beings, what makes our lives better objectively, and what doesn't, and what is just a bunch of useless shit that's been hanging on us for maybe a few generations, maybe lots of generations, maybe thousands of years, depending on what we're talking about, whether it's diet or behavior, the patterns in which we communicate with one another, the behaviors that parents express towards children and vice versa, and just the fact that we have a total shit show of a culture, a just resounding, unrelenting compound clusterfuck, just constantly just making itself ever more twisted and wretched into this. It just doesn't seem to really be working out for a lot of people. And the thing is, I'm having a great time in life. I have a very intense personality, and sometimes people might mistake me as being a negative person. I might have been at some point in my life, but at some point I had an epiphany. And that epiphany was that there's something bigger going on than just this little drama inside my head or your head, or this little drama that the human species entertains itself with. There's actually a story, okay, and there's actually a meaning to the story. It's not just like, oh, and then the humans did something else random and stupid and self-serving and hedonistic, and it just kept on fucking themselves over like that until the end of time. No, that's really not what the story is. That's the lie that's been fed to us to cover the real story. And that real story goes right to the heart of the human soul, because people want to treat this conversation as a woo-woo, whatever, everybody's so comfortable in their little world of the left brain where everything can be pieced apart and dissected and set aside, and this isn't me, I'm not a part of this, right? This is something that's outside of me, and I don't have to engage with it. And it's basically what the materialist left brain dominant worldview can't quite understand, is that it exists, that you exist. Basically our mind is constantly trying to dissociate ourselves from the world and see it as an observer, as this outside thing that's happening. It's not happening in here, it's happening out there, right? Okay, and so we're watching in amusement or horror, depending on our demeanor, reading the news, hearing, these stories of things happening in the world, talking to people, and, just basically reacting to these stimuli. And, basically people, they receive the program when they're born, the culturation from their family, the social mores, the social norms, and basically that's what they receive. They load that software into the hardware, and then they basically live life at that frequency. And most humans, that's how they've lived their whole lives. What they were born at, that's how they die. That frequency stays the same their whole life. And what is really unique about this whole generational time in human history is that is not the case. For hundreds and hundreds of generations, our great grandparents lived, and for them and their kids and their parents, their life was fairly similar. Okay, there was not a lot of variation. It was pretty predictable that your kid was going to experience a life very similar to the life that you lived. And that's all out the fucking window at this point. My dad and my mom have no idea who I am or the life that I have lived and the life that I'm going to live. They have no idea what I'm facing in this life. They don't have the slightest clue. And, neither do most parents, to tell the truth. And these baby boomers have lived through their televised delusion for 40, 50 years, imbibing all of this cultural madness, this satanic programming, this narcissistic, just wild, manic panic of just chasing whatever the attention is. Everybody just wants to have the attention. Everybody's just chasing after their own self-gratification. And basically there's different archetypes of the generations, and they kind of go in a cycle. The archetypes of the human soul respond to the things happening in the world around us, okay? We are the resurrection of the hero archetype, just like our great grandparents or great-great-parents were. Basically, the last time this archetype surfaced in the population was during World War II. The greatest generation, basically, who rose to the challenge of their times, and setting aside all the political foibles of what went into making the world wars, basically those were people who rose to the challenge of their times and performed extremely valiant acts to change the world. And for better or worse, they basically created the world that we're living in. And since then, it's kind of been like a playing out of these different subsidiary archetypes in response to that. Basically, after the hero comes basically the artist, and basically the nomad. And I'm not super well versed in all this, but I think that it's really valid to see cycles of history, and I think that's a lot more valid way of looking at history than just this linear forward into the future. And what's really interesting right now is that the frequency of the planet is actually increasing objectively. It's called the Schumann resonance. Okay, it's the electrical heartbeat of the Earth. Normally sat in the range of about 7.83 hertz, 7.83 cycles per second. And that was kind of like, there's lots of different frequencies within the Earth, but this was kind of like the base heartbeat, right? And all of the mammalian nervous system, okay, the brain stem, and all of the electrical pulses within our body are tuned to the heartbeat of the Earth, the Schumann resonance. And back in 1986, a few years before I was born, me and Space Panther and our whole generation started coming into this incarnation, that frequency started to increase. Okay, it started to change its tune, its pitch. And what's very interesting is that right now, as of early 2017, that signal, the Schumann resonance, is spiking. Where it is normally under 8 cycles per second, it has been recorded in January of this year at over 36 cycles per second. Okay, so we're at basically a full, 6 to 7, even 8-foot fold increase in the heartbeat of the Earth. And like I was saying, this signal is very much integrated into the circuits of life, okay, especially for mammals. And so what people experience when there's this increase in intensity of the system, this vibrational pickup, just like when there's, solar energy coming into the planet, solar flares, particle wind streams coming into the Earth, there's a greater level of electrical intensity on the planet. And we experience that as heightened levels of anxiety, of being on edge, of, snapping at people, and it's, again, there's a reason that humans have been tracking the big calendar for a long, long time, and they've been noticing that certain astrological correlations coincided with different almost manias within the human population. Different resonant aspects of the human personality would come up during specific times. And the Schumann resonance, more so than even, Venus on the ascendant and Jupiter, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the Schumann resonance is the heartbeat of the Earth. This is one of, the prime inputs to our, energetic, emotional well-being and state of being. Okay, so this is where I'm getting at today, is that we need to take accountability as energetic beings, not just as physical beings or mental beings, but as energetic beings, to take command of our sphere, okay? That I have my space, and I am in command of my space, and I am always in command of my space, and I'm not in command of anything outside of it. But if I resolve to hold that field, to hold that space, then I can make my will manifest in that space. Okay, so this is basically where I bring Orgonite into the conversation, because we are energy beings. We respond to electromagnetic fields. We respond to the Wi-Fi, coming from our routers or from our neighbors' routers. The power lines over our head, the smart meters, the cell phone towers, looking at bright lights late at night, disrupting the melatonin cycle in the brain. All the circadian rhythms of the body get disrupted because we're living in a world of robots. But we're not robots. Okay, so to merge the world of technology and to merge the world of the organic, to merge the world of metal and the world of wood, you have to create something that bridges the worlds. And that's what Orgonite is. It is a mixture of metallic and organic components combined synergistically so that basically and a piece of Orgonite, just like any other object in this room, is interacting with the electromagnetic field. Okay, so you can see the Wi-Fi as this pattern of electrical information being spread across this room back and forth. Okay, and what this is a special type of object in that field that interacts with that wave pattern. And the metal interacts with the field, and the organic components sink it back down into this object. Okay, so it's constantly pulling and pushing the ambient electromagnetic waves. What that does is it structures the wave pattern of the electromagnetic field so that it is no longer harmful to biological tissue. It does not weaken the field, okay? This will not reduce the efficacy of the Wi-Fi signal or the cell phone signal, but all it will do is make it so that my cells are no longer being microwaved by it, are no longer being electrocuted by this field. That this is kind of like my rock that absorbs the energy. And this is what the Earth does with the energy from the sun, okay? If we were to go up beyond the ionosphere, beyond the atmosphere, into open space, and have raw sunlight exposed to us without the protection of Earth's atmosphere, we'd be burnt to a crisp instantaneously. Yeah, like Funyuns, all right? But we don't, because we have the Earth's atmosphere and the Earth's magnetic field. And that field basically cycles the energy from the sun through the earth, through all of the crust, all the rock, all the oil, all the natural gas, all these metallic and organic components within the earth. All of that raw energy from space filters through the circuit of the earth, and it becomes organic energy that can resonate with life. Okay, that's what an Orgonite piece is doing on a micro scale with a source of unbalanced electromagnetic radiation like we're creating from our routers and other electromagnetic devices. So here's a batch that I just made recently. It came out all right, another of my little pyramid pieces. So as you can see, we've got all the metal shavings in there. There's some black stones in there. That's shungite. It's a Russian stone that basically is a high carbon stone, and it's received a lot of acclaim for basically having a lot of grounding potential. You can even put shungite supposedly in water and it will clean the impurities out of the water. I would probably try a life straw or a filter before I'd use that, but basically it does. I definitely get a very powerful grounding energy when I have it near. I like to keep a whole bag of it next to the router in addition to this piece. So basically we create these Orgonite pieces to interact with the ambient electromagnetic field and create a more harmonic environment for us to live in. Okay, so what I notice is that I sleep better when I turn the Wi-Fi off, but even when it's on, I always have Orgonite next to it, and of course most of the neighbors don't turn their Wi-Fi off. But so basically we can mitigate the harmful effects of those electromagnetic fields. I sleep better. A lot of people report better sleep when introducing Orgonite to the environment and mitigating the harm from that electromagnetic field. I mean, this is the cigarettes of our generation, is this the cell phones and EMFs, and people don't realize it yet, but they will, as everybody continues to lose their hair and have all these health problems and everybody's getting cancer, it's going to become very, very obvious as time goes on what is causing it all. Okay, so I resolved to stay ahead of the curve and stay in command of my energetic field without waiting for somebody else to come and save me. So there's the regular Orgonite pieces I put next to cell phone towers, I put next to power stations, and literally the weather changes, the sky opens up, the chemtrails clear. It's the most miraculous thing. I've seen it cause and effect, time and time again, to the point where anyone who claims that I'm not being scientific by engaging in this practice, I just have to laugh, because again, I've done so much experimental evidence, experimental work to test this postulate of Orgonite and Orgone fields, and it's all valid. I mean, and these videos are not here as proof to you, all right? If I engage in going out and trying to gather proof for you, that's something I do purely for my own recreation. I'm not here to convince you that Orgone energy is a real thing, okay? If you go out into nature and you meditate, you'll come to that conclusion yourself. So I'll let you have that magical experience and not ruin it for you. But the next level of powered Orgonite, basically, so I've introduced this guy to you. This is called a mini wand, okay? This is a double terminated quartz crystal in here. It's a copper pipe, and basically inside of here, the crystal is sitting inside, basically this is all filled with Orgonite in there. And so there's a wire going in there. It's a Mobius coil. It's wrapped around the crystal, and this gets powered up by a zapper, okay? This guy you can put on your body. It's a Holder-Clark zapper, basically, and it's got these electrodes. And this basically pulses an electronic circuit into the body. It can help get rid of infections, parasites, basically just any like foreign pathogenic activity in the body. It basically neutralizes with electricity. And another function of this is that it can also power up the power wand. Basically, and inside of here is like a 9-volt battery, and it runs through like Orgonite and an amethyst crystal and a magnet, and there's just a little circuit basically controlling, you know, that electronic pulse. Alright, so that goes into this, and I've used this little guy. I got this from a website, organizeafrica.com. I'll put the link in the description below. And I've used this little guy to clear the sky of so many thousands of chemtrails, it would boggle your mind. It would boggle your mind if you would actually see what I've seen. Okay, you know, just this alone will not substitute for actually doing the real groundwork and taking the Orgonite and busting all the cell phone towers and the substations. But once you have done that, with the addition of a pulsed electric field, a standing wave from basically one of these guys, it's absolutely phenomenal what can be achieved. And, you know, for those who are in more of the energetic sensitivity fields and the psychic stuff, and those who are aware of the spiritual dimension of existence on this planet, that there are very satanic forces on this planet. There is a force of light and there is a force of darkness. Okay, there's a force of good and there's a force of evil. And there's most of the population who doesn't believe in any of it, that are just stuck in rudderless in this morally relativistic communist imperial universe that they were fed as children. But I never bought that lie, and I continued to advance my magical studies, if you will. So that's the mini wand, but I've decided that with the fever pitch and crazy energy coming down on this planet right now, it's time to invest in some bigger guns, so to speak. And so that is why today I am unboxing the mother of all blessings, okay, which is the Power Wand Deluxe. Yes, this is basically a scaled up super version of this little guy, alright? So this is like, I don't know, 28 millimeters across, alright, and this is a lot bigger. So here you can see we've got a huge fatty crystal in there. This thing probably weighs like, I don't know, between 5 and 10 pounds. And there's basically a circuit at the bottom of this one, just like the other one. So I'll take it off so you can see. So there's another one of the zappers in here that's kind of like a built-in circuit. It goes out to here to a DC wall supply. So instead of relying on 9-volt batteries and just replacing these whenever I want to generate a psychic field and keep a protective electromagnetic shield around my living space, I'm just going to have this sucker going all the time. And it's just going to be more powerful because it's just got more Orgonite, a bigger crystal, and, you know, I don't have to rely on the weakened, you know, voltage pulsing from a 9-volt that eventually gets weaker and weaker, of course, because it's a battery and it runs out. So this is the Power Wand Deluxe. I'm going to take you over basically to where my little kind of altar station that I've set it up for. So I set it up right here. I've got a little thing to set it on, alright, and around here is the cord, and it just gets plugged right into there. And here you can see there's a blue light that basically lights this thing up. And so this right here is my little station set up. I'm going to make it a little more ornate and get like a Tibetan bell and a Dorje rod, you know, ancient symbols of supreme power and the diamond mine of enlightenment, you know, because that's what I'm resonating with. And this is my closing message for today, is that there is a tremendous amount of change taking place on this planet right now. Many conflicts between parents and children, between people in their family, in their community, in their workplace. And it's because the frequency of the planet is shifting right now. And we need to be aware of this fact and stand connected to the Earth, because things are only going to get more crazy before they get less crazy. All right? And, there's, war drums beating right now, and there's people, very, very have a lot of anxiety about politics and economics, and it's very likely that we're on the cusp, on the precipice of some very great transition right now. And we've been 9 years in a fake credit-induced bubble economy. The bubble has blown up all asset prices around the world, and now basically is a very pivotal transition time. Bitcoin is reaching its ascendance. Okay, the banking system is dying. The empire is in the process of its collapse. And I believe that Trump and his administration are working covertly to neutralize the forces of the satanic cabal on this planet. I think that he's working deep behind, the cover of all the headlines to actually achieve that end. And that's what we need to be working on in our own individual realms and spheres to achieve that, to bring balance to our own world, okay? And, sometimes that involves having conflict with people. All right. Sometimes we have to have conflict in order to achieve peace. If people are living in a lie, if they're living a delusion that's killing them, and you love someone, are you better served continuing to lie to them and let them continue killing themselves just because you don't want to disturb the comfortable bubble of their delusion? Or if you really love someone and you want to protect them, will you pop that bubble? Will you give them the truth that they need to make the decisions that they need to survive and thrive in this world? Because the world that my children will grow up in is not the world that I grew up in. And it sure as hell ain't the world that my dad grew up in. It's not the world that my mom grew up in. And they don't get that. And they're not going to get that until the world that they've been raised in is already done and dead. And the world as we know it has already ended, okay? And the last vestiges are in the process of fading right now. Okay, and I consider myself a resonant archetype avatar with the world that is to be, the paradise that we are building on this planet. And at this stage in time, I see no reason to compromise on principles of integrity, basically that all beings do deserve to live in peace and happiness on this planet, that we shouldn't treat each other with disrespect. We shouldn't have hatred in our hearts. When we walk throughout the world, we should walk in grace. We should walk in balance and harmony. We should speak with a sense of ease. We should have goodwill towards people, not come into a relationship already charged with negative words and negative actions. Okay, because I see a lot of that, and I'm not standing for it anymore. And I will do what I can, even at the cost of destroying relationships with my closest family, in order to maintain that sense of integrity, because I know what the world is going to be like that I'm going to live in. Okay, my parents, they don't understand that. They don't understand it at all. And most of the people on this planet are still totally clueless as to what's going to happen. But I'm having a great time. And I hope you guys are too. And I just want to bring this message to you to just know that you are always in power of your energetic field, and that when you actually make that a modality of your existence and start to really run with that theme, it's really extraordinary the things that we can achieve once we actually start to really believe that we can change reality, because we can. And all it really takes is the courage and the energetic fortitude to stand in truth, to stand in compassion, and to speak the truth and not be afraid, no matter what kind of funny hat or what kind of shiny metal star some person in a uniform might have on their tit, or some bishop or some guy wearing a fish head for a hat talking from a golden throne about his pious fake morality. All right, the false systems of control that the empire set up for us are now collapsing because the people have lost faith in them. And I, for one, will sing the destruction of Babylon with tears of joy in my heart. And on that note, I hope you guys have a great day. Wholeness and balanced vibrations. And yeah, I'll be doing more videos here in the future. But just wholeness and balance, basically respect for all life on this planet. And hopefully we can create a world that is free of suffering. because I'm not interested in anything else. Cheers.